So are you guys ready to see a miracle? Let's check this out.
My Bible tells me that we can stop the rain. So I'm going to say, rain, listen to me. Stop! In the name of Jesus. Don't worry, it's going to stop. Come on, somebody, wave your flags, wave your pride. We are here, and we are going nowhere. Come rain or shine.
Boy, there's a lot to unpack here. Let's check this out. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are again. As you just seen, that we're going to be looking at some of the United Kingdom stuff. We're going to be looking at some of the characters that are involved in this movement. In particular, the guy who's fronting the movement, that being Tommy Robinson. But also we're going to look at behind the scenes of the Christianity that's involved in the movement. We're not looking at the political ideologies. We're not looking at any of that. We're just taking a look at the Christianity involved, what form it is, and whether that is detrimental or positive to the gospel. So we're just going to see, and we're going to look, and you're going to tell me how you think of this as well. So just as an intro, that was Ricky Doolan, who is a pastor, and he is he's under a man named Prophet Hubert Angel, who we're going to have to take another look at as well. But just first things first, let's go through the list of some of these names that we're going to look at in the next couple of videos, okay? So, Tommy Robinson, obviously, of course, is the man fronting this movement. Ricky Doolan, who I've just mentioned, is this pastor who's involved with Tommy Robinson. You have Richard Inman, who's a man that's very close to Tommy and has been for a long time. And he's also very high up in this movement. He's more of a political character, you could say. You have Bishop Kai Diwa, who is he is a confessing Anglican priest, and you have also Chris Wickland, who is a modern day prophet. He is self-proclaimed prophet anyway, and we have also Brett Murphy, is another name that we've got. And he is a Australian. He's a priest in the Anglican Church, but he's become a member. He came out of the Anglican Church, went into the Free Anglicans, which is another form of that. So he came out of Church of England and went into that movement. But we'll look more at him at another date. But with this video, we're going to try and focus on Tommy. So if we just look at the nature of the people involved, we're looking at the churches that are involved. We're looking at who could be involved in this kind of movement? What kind of faces fit the frame for this kind of movement that have been pushed? We've seen it already happen in America with Turning Point USA and Charlie Kirk and his wife now, and all the people that are under her, and the way that it was very ecumenical. I would say this kind of fits the same sort of bill. We're looking at Christian nationalism in particular when we talk about this stuff. So who can be involved in nationalist movements, and who are the best people to be involved in that movement? They would have aspects that are quite worldly. They would also appeal to many. That's very important. They're very inclusive of things, especially inclusive of the Catholic Church. They're very charismatic. They're guys that you would listen to and you would think, yeah, I could get on board with this. They are ecumenical, meaning that they want a unification of Christianity across the board. You have universalism as well, which is also bringing in all aspects of different religions. Ideally, this is something that they would look for in the end. This is what the devil's going to be trying to do, is bring universalism in, because that's the one world religion is universalism. That's what they call it. They would be powerful speakers. It's people who can get a crowd going, get people moving, get people voting. That's the most important thing with this movement, because obviously we're starting with marches. And we're starting with these kind of things, these kind of movements, and then they're going to try and turn this into a political party. We can see that with the work that Richard Inman's doing. He's the main one who's a proponent of working with, for example, Advance UK and coming up with a manifesto and this kind of thing. So that's more to come on that. But yeah, and also very highly intelligent people. Guys like Tommy Robinson, very, very intelligent. You might not see him on the surface to some folks, but he's a very intelligent guy. But, you know, intelligence, like I was saying in one of my recent preachings, intelligence is never going to be something that's a proponent for the gospel. It might teach people about, you know, different historical aspects and things like that of the Bible. But the crux of the gospel is that there was no smartness of speech involved. When Timothy was, when Paul was speaking, there was no intelligence involved. It was just preaching the gospel, and the gospel being Christ crucified. That is the crux of the gospel, and that is what Paul preached. So in Paulician Christianity, like we sort of are here, especially in the British Baptist ministry, we're fundamental. We preach the basics, and we also are looking to expose the flaws in modern Christianity, which is, I would say, Christianity. You know, it's not quite biblical a lot of the time, but we're going to see what patterns there are. And just as a foreword, I'm not saying that these guys involved are not saved. They might well have a very good testimony. We're going to look at some of their testimonies, and you can see God's working in their lives. But is it exactly what the Bible teaches? And do they even know what they're in when they're involved in certain churches and certain doctrinal statements and things like that? So we're going to look at all those things, okay? Because it's most important. You have to check out what church someone's from. If you have someone who's just winging it and you can't find what church they're from, there's danger there. You know, it's one of those things where you should be able to check the background of these people to find out what they believe, and that's just very simple, especially pastors and preachers. Oh, my goodness, there's a lot of churches out there today that don't even have doctrinal statements, so that's something to bear in mind, and a very dangerous thing. So as we're going to look at the first video now. We're going to look at Tommy Robinson. Some clips of his, and we're just going to see what's going on with him, okay? And in particular, some of the things that he says, some of the things that he speaks about, and in particular, things about Christianity that don't quite seem to be fitting right yet. I know that he's a recent believer, but there's no one obviously in his life telling him that you can't do this and you can't do that, which we need. We need someone who to preach against sin, because it is sin. And yeah, let's just call a spade in that sense. So let's have a look.
UTK winter hat with a little bobble. Let me have one. And the scarf, look, always branded. Come on. And pink one for the ladies, or for the gays, whatever you want. So you can get these and beanies and all different winter stuff. I'll give you the link on here. It'll be in the first comment. Keep yourself warm, but also support the brand. Tell everyone May 16th, get ready for the biggest event this country's ever seen. Lots of plans going in. People say, what's the point in just a demonstration? What's that going to achieve? We have a 4-year vision. The demonstration is part of the cultural movement to electrify, energise and wake up the 20 million non-voters. Okay, lots is happening. So get yourself a woolly hat. Get yourself a scarf, and have a good day. So nationwear.co.uk. That's where you get it. Nationwear.co.uk.
So I don't know about you, but that doesn't scream to me like this is a Christian movement. This looks like it's a rowing up of the people to get them into this new wave of politics that's going to be coming out, which is going to be essentially a mixture of going back to Christian values, so-called. But like I said in the previous video, Christian values are not the same as the Christian values we get from the Bible. Christian values are these ones that are spoken about. They're not often followed. They're just, and in particular in this event, they're just being used. That's what it is. It's people saying that the only thing that can fight Islam is Christianity, and really the only deliverance people are going to truly get from Islam and the Muslim religion is through Christ, and we know that. But that's not the main purpose of the gospel. The purpose of the gospel is to get all saved, all to come to the fullness of the knowledge of Christ. It's not just a focus on Islam and the problems that brings to a nation. We know that that Sharia law would not work over here. We know that, and we know that that's what they're trying to push. But it's not something that we are trying to, as Christians, we're trying to get all people saved, and that's one of the important things. When you start talking about electrifying the non-voters and getting them up into voting, that's what this is about. One of the ways to do that is to approach the, in America they have it called the the Christian vote. I can't remember exactly the name of it, but there's a name for the voters that they want the Christian voters to come in, and they want the Christian people to stand up and to back them up, because it's a huge majority of people that would even call themselves Christian, let alone are true Christians. Okay, so let's just firstly rightly divide that there are true Christians, there is that call themselves Christians, and so you can see, and also some of these comments are not the sort of comments of a saved person. You're already inclusive of gays. Okay, so that's, maybe you haven't been taught that one yet, but we want all homosexuals to come to Christ, of course, and turn from their wickedness, but we're not trying to support them and encourage them where they're at just to get them to support a political movement. This is what happens a lot of the time when people talk about the Catholics and how they are Christians, but they are not. Okay, so that's just not the case. And we're going to go have a look at how much that is involved in this movement as well, because there is a lot of that. There's a lot of talking down about the Church of England and talking down about priests and things like that, and the order of things, and the abuse scandals and things like that. But then at the same time, they're like, look, I'm not saying all Catholics. I'm saying that some are lovely, but the majority are not. That's what they're saying. So there is a big push against the Church of England here as well. I have to make a note of that, because that is one of the other things that are being attacked, as well as on the one side you've got Islam being attacked, and then on the other side you've got the Church of England being attacked. And we know the problems with the Church of England already. I've been through some of that in previous videos. They're, like I said, they have different ways and styles of running churches. They have quite a few like hidden movements that they have within themselves as well. I was reading recently about that they have a deliverance ministry sort of thing for casting out devils and things like that. It's interesting. It's never pushed to the forefront, but apparently there is under one of the dioceses there is this kind of thing going on. So yeah, it's an interesting thing, but it's not what we're here to look at today. We're here to look at what is the United Kingdom movement about, and is it about Christianity? Are these people sound when they're talking about these are Christians involved and at the forefront of it? And we're going to look at some of the patriot pastors, but of course, first of all, we're here to look at Tommy. You can see that Tommy has always had a bit of an attitude, and he's very much into this idea of masculine Christianity, which we'll have a look at in this next video. Okay, so let's check this out.
Fascinating. And did you ever think there would be this religious element to what you're doing?
No, never. And I felt it. Do you know, I felt something very, Christ is King, 100,000 people, Trafalgar Square. I just looked around and thought, what is happening? And I let a priest get up and talk, and I never was going to let a priest get up and talk. And I wanted a priest to start it because it was the day after the Paris Olympics. And I was so with what they'd done. I was so outraged. And then there was a priest there. I said, get up and talk. And I let him get up and talk. And I think that masculine Christianity is coming back. Not a weak, pathetic. Christianity isn't weak. It's never been. We wouldn't still be here if it was weak. Yeah, but it's become weak. The church have become weak. The church have become dissolute, disaffected from the community. And if you look at the figures, which has been real interesting to see, young men are finding church. And I think that the reason Jews are doing it and Christians are doing it is because when you're at risk, when you realise your culture identity is at risk, you look and search for a belonging, a belief, and people are finding it in Christianity.
No, just first off, when he's talking about the church, he's probably generally talking about the Church of England. I don't think he's talking about a disconnect with the church as an understanding of that the church is the body of Christ. That's just first and foremost. I mean, you've obviously heard the cussing straight away. Obviously, I'm going to bleep it out because, it's just not something not appropriate. It's not good to be talking like that. And as you're representing Christianity right here, you're talking about that you're a Christian now. You shouldn't be talking like that. Why has nobody pointed this out to you? Why has nobody said you can't do that? Especially not on the thing. And it's because there's a lot of foul-mouthed people in Britain, and they don't want him to look like he's some sort of he's become like some sort of nerd now that he's a Christian. He's become one of these weak Christians that doesn't cuss and doesn't commit violence and things like that. He doesn't want to look like a wuss to people, and that's not what Jesus was meek. He was powerful, but his power was under restraint. He could have literally just wiped us all out, but he chose not to. In his good, his good grace that he gives towards us, because we deserve death. That's the thing with the gospel, is that we deserve death and we have been given life through Christ. And that is why would you not be talking about the gospel on a thing like this? And we're going to see why. But it's all these platforms that he's been on, not a lot of talk about Christianity and in the sense of spreading the gospel message. And we're not talking about preaching, we're just talking about the very basics of that you're saved now. I mean, you've been delivered from darkness to light. Where is the evidence of that? So if it's just the same old person talking away, then there's no true change, and true change is the evidence of salvation. This is why we're going to be talking about, this is why this episode is called The Fruit of Doctrine, because this is what is doctrinal fruit. When you have bad doctrine, it will lead into it will show in the fruit. So let's just take a look further. So
I think there's a Christian revival happening right now in Great Britain. I think it's going to happen across the West. I think that as people are searching, and for me to say that, because I was never religious. In fact, I thought it was I struggled with it. I still struggled. Do you know when I was in jail, what I said is, I don't want to ever stand and sound like I'm preaching to people.
So when he's been shown the gospel, now he wants to make sure that everybody knows that he's not going to be preaching the gospel. Yet he has a platform of hundreds of thousands, as we've seen in the screenshots of the amount of people. I mean, just look at it. There's hundreds of thousands of people supporting this guy. And yeah, of course, at the marches and stuff, there's people talking, but people are there ideally, they're there because they support Tommy. They're not there because they support Christianity, ideally. They're there because they support what he's saying. And as he said before, he didn't start this movement with this idea of that it was going to be bringing Christian revival. But with Christian revival, what is the nature of the Christian revival? Is it true Christianity? That's what we're trying to explore. Is there a true Christian revival going on, like there was in the Shetlands and Wales and or the islands of Skye and things like that? And in America, there was great revivals. Is it on that nature, or is it the nature of that it's weak and pathetic and not gospel centered and just talk? Because that's what it seems to be so far. It seems a lot of talk, not a lot of action. So let's see how this goes. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out.
Unless I know every aspect of Jesus' life, which is why for me, I need to know everything.
You probably knew more about Islam.
I did. I knew everything about Islam and Muhammad, and I didn't know anything about Jesus.
Wanting to know everything about Christ when you're a new believer is not going to happen. But you know enough to get another person saved once you've been led to Christ. If you've been truly led to Christ, you have enough in you to be able to lead another. That is so simple. You get it in examples of the woman at the well. She went and told the people about Jesus. That was what happened. She went and told. When the disciples met Jesus, they went and got their brothers, they went and got their friends, they went and got whoever it was to tell them that they found the Messiah. I don't see that with this guy. And I said, I'm not tearing the guy down, but I'm just trying to say that Christianity's got to be more than this. It's got to be more than just talk. There's got to be some change. There has to be some fruit that's being produced that is good fruit. Okay, so I'll try and let it play a little more until we make another comment. But yeah,
I've never picked up a Bible, never. So for me, and I've said this, so I don't want to preach, and I don't, and unless I know everything. That's how I am, and I like to be versed in everything, and I don't know everything yet, but I do believe that there is a Christian revival happening, and I think that there is a masculine form of Christianity that's going to rise, and it's going to be detached from the church.
You can't have Christianity detached from the church. I don't know what church he's talking about, but his idea of the church is absolutely wrong. You can't have a detachment from the church when you are a Christian. You know what Jesus died for? It says in his word that he died for the church. He laid his life down for the church. That is what he did. And the church is the body of believers worldwide. So it's not some entity like that. It's the body of Christ. You know, it's not what you think. And I don't know if you I would love for Tommy to watch this. It'd be great, because then he could actually realise, I don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I'm still talking about Christianity, but you're misunderstanding it. You've got great gaps in your knowledge that you can't even talk about the basics of Christianity, because you can't even you're talking about separation of church and Christ, and that's not possible. I know that some people think that you can not be in a church and not. But even if you're in a home church, you're still a church. You know, that's how things started, was in home churches. Obviously, we know that from the records, but in the Bible. But the fact that there's no body of believers, that's not true. You can't be detached from the church like that. They'll, if Jesus died for the church, you can't separate that. So yeah, there's some gaps in the knowledge, and you say you don't want to preach about Jesus, yet you know enough apparently because you're saved, but you won't. But you want to talk about Christianity and bring it into the movement without knowing these basics. So it's kind of very contradictory, and you'll see a lot of contradictions as we look into this. This is why this series is called Unpicking the Fabric, because we are having to literally take this thing that is meshed together, and we have to try and take it fibre by fibre apart so that we can see exactly what's going on with these different strands. This is one strand. This is one of the strands is the person leading the movement. The other strand is what they believe. The other strand is who led them to Christ. The other, it goes on and on. Who is he letting speak? It's rallies. What are these people saying when they're not at the rallies? It's very important. What are they like in their personal life? What's going on behind the scenes? We don't know, but we'll see the fruit, and we'll see from the fruit. The Bible says we will know them by their fruit. So let's carry on.
Yeah. Do you know what I love? I love black churches. I love the gospel. I love seeing I used to watch some pastors now in America. Just think, see, I'd follow him. I ain't following him. I'd follow him. I'd follow that. I'd follow that. And I said to my pastor, the first thing I asked my pastor when in prison, I said, when Jesus said turn the other cheek, what did he mean? And he said, he meant hit me like a man. And I went, yeah, I'll follow you. I'll follow you.
What are you talking about? What? This pastor, by the way, is the guy that we saw in the intro video. That is his pastor, Pastor Ricky Doolan, who in my eyes is not a pastor. I don't think he's qualified to be a pastor, but that's another thing, okay? Especially not if you've got a misunderstanding of basics in the Bible like that. I mean, we were talking about Christian values, and we spoke about how turning the other cheek means that Jesus said, do not react with violence when someone gives you violence. This is the whole point. It's about no longer shall it be an eye for an eye. This is the point that Jesus was making. Okay, this was showing his power under restraint. What that is just, that's a joke. What sort of pastor would go and tell someone that is what that means, especially for a new believer? They're at the building block stage of their faith, apparently. As long as if they have been led to Christ, apparently it was just that he was led in a prayer. So a prayer doesn't say much, but the walk will show plenty, and the talk will show plenty too, because we shall know by their fruit. And for one, the fruit of that pastor is not great when they're talking like that, to someone who's already got propensity to violence, and then you're saying that, oh, hit me like a man. What are you talking about? That's not what it says. That's not what it says at all. There's nothing about that scripture that says that. So, this is where it gets kind of dicey, because you got false doctrine being pumped in straight away, and that was one of the first things he asked, one of the first questions. It breaks my heart, because that's not the Bible. That's not Bible truth. So it's sad. It's very sad. It's a very sad situation, because I really think that he could be a powerful voice for Christianity. I'm sure many people agree. If he can talk and get these hundreds of thousands of people into the streets of London to be talking about the issues that are going on, the big issue is that people are walking around unsaved. There are people that are called Christians and they're not saved. The revival is far more important than the politics, and that's just how it is. They're talking about saving the future generations, and we don't know what the future generations, how many more future generations there are going to be before the rapture and before the tribulation and before the millennial reign. Not many, I can tell you that. But I mean, Jesus said 2,000 years ago he's coming soon, so he's definitely coming soon. So this is something that people should be concerned about. They should be thinking about. They should be preaching about, speaking about, teaching about. These are the kind of things that are the issue. The issue is not the politics. The issue is the religion, the Christianity, and of what form it takes. Of course, I'm not downplaying the fact that there has to be some good politics going on too, obviously, but it doesn't have to have all this emphasis on a false Christianity, if you like. But we need to focus more on the gospel here if we're gonna save anyone, and that's our job as the church. The church's job is to go forth and preach the word. If you're misunderstanding that as a baby Christian, there's no hope. It's coming later on, because you are never going to know everything about Christ until we go to be with him. It says in the Bible, we won't know. Okay, we won't know everything. but we know enough. And the Lord has done enough through saving us that we can just go and tell them that. Where we were, where we are now. That's the basics. That's the testimony. And there is no testimony there. The testimony is that you have a pastor, apparently. You don't go to church because you're disenchanted with the church. And, you know, there's thousands of people like that out there. Been church hurt that have been. But the truth is they've just chosen not to go to church anymore. They can find the right one. I went and found the right one. I was in the false church for about nearly 9-10 years. And it was teaching all this charismatic Pentecostal stuff and all these kind of allegorical ideas of what the Bible is literally saying. And now I'm a King James only independent fundamental Baptist. And I would never look back from that because I know the truth now. I can literally take my Bible and I can work out for myself with the Holy Spirit. I don't need someone else, but I want others to learn from. I want older Christians to learn from. This is the whole point of the Timothy and Paul and you know, the son and father aspect. It was that Timothy was able to learn from an older Christian the way forward. And this is what people like Tommy Robinson need. They need to have someone come alongside them that knows what they're talking about. And apparently there are folks around him that know what they're talking about. But the longer this goes on, the longer there's nonsense going on. Why is nobody putting a stop to that? They're just letting him just make himself look stupid to everyone. I'm sure he doesn't think that. I'm sure he thinks that he's doing a great job, and he is in some ways. But there's lacking in the Christian side of things. So anyway, let's have a look at some more clips just to see any more fruit since he's been saved. Okay, so and you might seem this is unfair, but it's kind of whenever I see a new video come out, I watch it and I see something else. So these are just either the algorithm is pushing me all this, or this is just what is coming out on a daily basis. So let's take a look.
People over on wearing my UTK scarf, keep me warm. It's cold out there, isn't it? And my hat. And just want to share this with you. You can get these at nationwear.co.uk. Always grifting. Give a right? We've got lots of bills to pay. And they're good. And they're really good. So just sharing that they're great. Keep you warm. Sport the colours. Ready for May 16th. Well, you're going to need it in May 16th, but you'll need it now. It's freezing out. Amen.
So there's nothing wrong with having a brand, okay? There's nothing wrong with having this Unite the Kingdom brand. That's all good. Go ahead. But when you start talking like that, you're letting Christianity down. You're letting Jesus down. So if you're really truly a saved man, there would be some voice in you. The Holy Spirit would be telling you to stop doing that. But you would even have, if not within, if you can't hear that voice, that's alarming for a start. But if then there's no one else coming alongside you and saying, look, you've got to stop talking like that, because we don't talk like that as Christians, you know? And that's rebuking someone rightly. That's the right way to do it. And if there are these people that are claiming that they are saved and that they are Christians, they need to be talking to them. If they're so close to Tommy, then please somebody tell him to stop doing this. And if he's truly saved, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not in a right frame or area to be able to talk to him and tell him to confront him on it. But sin has to be confronted in some manner, some way, shape, or form. So just please, guys, if you're close to Tommy Robinson, give him a word from the Bible. Tell him that we're not supposed to have speech like this. Okay, we're not supposed to have all this aggression and all this kind of thing. It's all right to have strength and things like that, and to be to give the message with power. That's not what I'm saying. But when you have instances like this going on, it doesn't look great. It doesn't suit you either. So if you're saved now, you should be acting differently. There shouldn't be this whole riotous kind of thing about you. You know, that you're like you're just ready to punch someone. You know, it's not right. And I get that he gets a lot of aggro from people, but you have to even more. Then you should be acting more Christ-like, because that is the way to deal with it. It heaps coals of fire upon their head, because they'll see this guy is not the same one that he used to be. But yeah, let's have a look at another one.
What against the crown are you against?
Reading things out.
Yeah, out of context. Anyone can do that out of context. I can read the Bible out of context.
Okay.
And the Bible's far worse out of context
Go.
than the Quran.
Rather than arguing me, go argue with ISIS. Go argue with Boko Haram. Go argue with Al Qaeda.
I do. So why don't you go? Why don't you go argue with all the paedophiles in the churches?
Okay.
Why don't you go?
Do you believe in free speech?
Yeah.
How about Let me
Why
finish my interview then.
is your free speech only against Muslims?
I'm not talking about Muslims.
No,
you're okay making this.
I'm on about that's what you're known for.
Because I've got an opinion.
You're a racist
I'm allowed my...
no one wants you around here.
What's racist got? What's racist got?
Come back to where you come from.
Yeah,
No.
what are you doing? Who are you pushing?
No.
Who are you pushing?
No,
I mean, who are you pushing?
I'm just doing it.
Lucky, like I give a like I give a do I look like I give a do I look like I give a you? Do I look like I give a you? Do I look like I give a do I look like I give a Frank? Do I look like I care? Shut up, you mum. Go Wait, now we finish our interview. I told you we'd finish our interview.
Right, we all get into this. Boxing talk only.
Boxing talk, yeah?
Right, because you have come to see Andrew Tate versus Chase the Moor, Tommy. Your kids, big fans of Misfits.
Big fans of Misfits. I've come to watch Misfits. Obviously. Who's that anyway?
That's Ty Mitchell.
Ty
who just
Mitchell.
come up to you.
What's he, a professional boxer?
He is a professional boxer.
Who gives a shit anyway? I don't. I've got my opinion. I'll stand by my opinion. I'm right in what I say. Just for the record, I don't hate Muslims. I've made this point so many times. I have loads of Muslim friends who I have lots of love with that I've been brought up with. But there's a problem, and someone needs to talk about it. Unfortunately, I've took that handle, and I talk about it. And because I talk about it, it's like this. Wherever I go, everywhere I go. But I still go there. A lot of people say to me, why have you gone here? Why are you in Dubai? Because I go where the fuck I want, yeah? In all honesty. Because I'm right. And I am actually meeting Emiratis here who work tirelessly against jihad, against Muslim Brotherhood, against terrorist organisations. There's no terrorism here. Do you know why? Because they know how to tackle it and deal with it. Not like Britain. They don't allow them to run out of control. But
Tommy,
anyway,
I'm not.
And that's fair enough. All right, that last section, fair enough. That's all like that's all good. But that whole confrontation thing, it wasn't necessary. There's other ways to deal with it. Like, I'm not saying that anyone's perfect. I don't know what I would do in that situation, but I certainly wouldn't be cutting my head off. And I would certainly remember who I'm representing as a Christian. I have to remember that all the time. That is what keeps me straight and narrow, if you like. I'm also representing my church when I go out, so it's one of those things. You know, I'm representing the people that are around me, that I'm close to, that I love, and but most of all, I'm representing Christ. This is the important thing. So when people are going out and they're acting like this, it's not a good look. It's not a good look at all for Christianity, and people are looking for a changed man, and that is same old Tommy. That's not any different from who he was before. Of course there's frustration there. Of course he's angry because everywhere he goes he gets this stuff going on all the time. But it's there are other ways to deal with this. And if you are a Christian, you'll have ways to be able to counter this, and you'll have situations will just play out differently. They just will. You'll end up taking more persecution than you will confronting it. Because that's just what we do as Christians. When we're persecuted, it says we have to love our enemies. We have to love those that are that despitefully use us and speak evil, all manner of evil about us. We have to just remember that this guy needs Christ too. This guy that he's speaking to, they need Christ too. They need an example of Christ in that moment, because that might change their opinion of not only you but of Christianity. And then they will actually realise that there's some power going on, and people are drawn to this power. They're drawn to to power in general, but if they're drawn to the power of Christ in you, that is a wonderful example of the gospel, and a wonderful testimony to have. So I'd like to encourage him that he doesn't have to act like this. And it's sad you have to hear all these kind of things, and I just my heart goes out to people that are struggling with this whole thing of being a Christian, going through this change. But I would like to say that if you are still acting the same as you were, there's something up with the doctrine that you have. There's something up with what you've learned. And you might even not have the correct Jesus being preached to you. You might have a false Christ being preached to you, and that's not good. Because the Jesus of the Bible would and look, if it came to, like, say if someone came into my house and was trying to burgle my house, do you really think that I would just stand there and let that happen? Absolutely not. That's not what we're talking about. This is completely different. This is a different situation. And when Jesus said turn the other cheek, that's what he meant. You know, if that boxer gave you a right hook, you would just have to leave it. you know, and you wouldn't have to fight back. There's no need, because in that situation, what is it? Are you some sort of, you know, brawler? And the Bible explicitly warns about being brawlers. So we're not doing it for that. If we're doing it in self-defense, there's a difference. But if we're doing it just to be, you know, just to be a brawler and a fighter, and showing your aggression and showing that you're the man around, you know, that's not the right way to go about it. And I'm sure people will disagree, but I believe what the Bible teaches is that we're supposed to be, you know, not being violent towards others, not hurting one another physically. But yeah, that's where we're at with that. So let's take a look at, like I said, we're going to take a look at this man as well, who is called his pastor. So we'll take a look at that in the next video, though, I think, because I think we've got enough to deal with here. So thanks for watching. I hope that you there's something to take away from this video that would help you and help you learn to study things and to just sometimes see through what is being said and look at the actions and look at the background and things like that. But there's definitely someone needs to come alongside Tommy and tell him the truth, not just be passive around him, because that is not going to do him any good. Okay, this attitude of I do what I want, this kind of thing, that's not of God at all. Jesus didn't do what he wanted. He said, "Not my will, but thine, Lord," and that's what he should be doing right now. But yeah, thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.